Welcome to episode 146 of Star Wars and Scotch. It's Kevin, it's Tim, and we are talking about Ahsoka episode 6. And there is a lot to talk about.
There's a good one.
It was a doozy. But before we get into it, I would love to mention that Tim and I are both enjoying some delicious King's Coast coffee this morning. So King's Coast coffee, boom, look at that. This beautiful tumbler. Tim's got it in his Gators mug over there.
I do. The Gators won against Tennessee, so.
And you have cold brew, I saw?
It's like a latte. It was just espresso over some milk. I have a little frothing wand, so like I've been frothing up my espresso just to kind of make it fluffy.
Ooh, fluffy espresso. Which
Fluffy
roast?
espresso. There is only Bowbreaker.
There is.
I like Countach, but I mean like Bowbreaker is the superior.
It's funny because I met someone over the weekend who swears by Countach, so that was interesting.
Maybe they haven't experienced Bowbreaker yet.
There you go, person that I met over the weekend. But make sure you head up to kingscoastcoffee.com. We got the last remnants of the Warframe roast. So
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah. So go grab that before it is all gone forever and goodbye. And we're heading into spooky season, and you know we love to do some stuff for spooky season. So make sure you head over to kingscoastcoffee.com. The only thing I will say about GCX is that you should probably start paying attention to socials in the next week or so. Wink, wink, nod, nod. That's all you get. And with spooky season around the corner, although most of you started celebrating on September 1st, and once again, I will say, don't talk to me when I put my Christmas tree up on November 1st. You understand me? Because you all started this pumpkin, spooky Halloween crap on September 1st. So don't yell at me. But with spooky season around the corner, you should probably pay attention to Lab 77. Lab 77. Make sure you pay attention right around the corner.
Making sure the autofocus is working. My camera looked blurry this morning.
Doesn't look blurry.
You get to look at my hand real quick. Okay, it's photos focusing. All right, we're good.
Is that the black magic?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, actually, the black magic doesn't have a full sensor. So it only has a half sensor, so it doesn't give you the full picture, and so it'd be like really tight on my face. So like for some things it's great. For stuff like this, not so much.
Understood.
Yep. But yeah, we actually was trying on some blanks for potential merch for Halloween. So stay tuned.
Is it spooky? Ooh.
We were looking at a piece of clothing that could be within that vibe. So
Hashtag all hail the Dark Lord. Let's
wait.
What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
I say we just get into it. There's no small talk this week. We have so much to discuss.
Let's jump into it.
It's like, and my wife was sitting next to me. She's not caught up, and she's like, I keep looking. Is it him? I was like, it's him. And she's like, are those knights? I'm like, stop watching the damn show, because she had her iPad on. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and explain it to you. You're going to watch it all in order like I did. Let's start with the thing that I've been dying to speak with you about since 9:45 yesterday evening.
Okay.
Thrawn.
You don't even want to talk about like
I don't want to set it up.
Or?
No, we're going to get into Perdia because there's a whole thing there. But let's start with the low-hanging fruit.
Peridia, not Perdia.
Yeah, Perdia.
I thought of per diem, and so I was like, that's not right.
The Thrawn reveal. I'm going to give you my points, and then you are the Thrawn expert out of the two of us. So I'm going to defer to you after this. I thought his entrance was fantastic.
From a certain point of view, yes.
Yes, and I also think that it is intended to show you that he has aged quite a bit during
He's
all
70
of this.
years old. So if you guys start bitching about how he looks and how he doesn't look like the animated version, well, man, you have very high standards.
Yes, yeah. So I wanted to put that in there, but the direction they're taking him and everything they're doing with him, and there's some points and things that I want to bring up, but I want your take out of the gate on where this is headed, your feelings on it based on someone who's read all 6 books, et cetera, et cetera. So the floor is yours, in my opinion.
We're going heir to the Empire Thrawn at this point. Like this is not the literature version of Thrawn from my point of view. All of the things that we've gone through in the books with Thrawn, through his time in the Ascendancy, through his time in the Empire, it's a very, very different type of character. It reminds me a lot. He's a good villain. Like I don't think he's gonna fit into the anti-hero role. I think he's just gonna be just a pure villain at this point. Yeah, I mean, like I think even just like the thing that kind of shook me was that he makes this grand entrance, and all these stormtroopers are chanting his name. They're chanting Thrawn, 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 and so it's just like he's become a warlord. Like he has become this nation of upon himself. He's very different. I don't know if it's the time that he's spent on the planet in exile that has changed his character or what, but we definitely have a very different type of Thrawn. I was not expecting this type of Thrawn.
Can you attribute any of this to the fact that he's been in exile for 10 years or so?
I think some of it could be that. Could he be playing a role to get what he wants? That was something that I also thought about as we went through this episode. Him utilizing the powers of the Dathomiri witches, being able to see into the future and all of these things. It definitely seems like the Dathomiri witches have turned, like they are what Master Sepayoth was in Heir to the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sepayoth was like his man, he did a lot of things. He was able to like expand like his abilities outwards. He was kind of like this conduit. That's the word I was looking for. He's kind of like this force conduit that like Thrawn kind of had control over. But the Dathomiri witches seem to be like, because he's doing something for them, they're doing something for him. There seems to be some type of agreement here, but he's utilizing their powers to get what he wants.
Correct.
So that's where I think like there's this interesting switch where Dave didn't want to use Sepayoth from Heir to the Empire, and he had to find something that kind of worked with all of the characters that were kind of already created for the animated series. And so I think this is a really cool way of kind of like taking that character, like using the same properties but changing it into something else. And I kind of like the route that we went with these Dathomiri witches as well, because like they kind of remind me of the in like Norse mythology or even like Greek mythology, the Fates.
Mm-hmm.
They remind me a lot of like the Fates. They talk about the threads. They talk about like, you know, like all of these things that reminded me very much of that. But yeah, like Thrawn is very different. He's definitely, I think he's a little more twisted and definitely a bit more evil since the last time that we saw him.
I would throw out too with the witches. One of the interesting things is it was another way to collectively circumvent the extinction of the Dathomir witches. Because Marin was the last living one that we know of, and that was a long time ago.
And that was on Dathomir. We know that they were essentially wiped out during the Clone Wars.
Right. And the existence of a great mother, not Mother Talzin, a great mother.
I couldn't figure out if all three of them were the Great Mother.
I have no idea.
I honestly had like a part of me felt like it was like a shared consciousness across the board for those three.
Yeah.
Back into the whole fate thing. I feel like these are like the fates of the Star Wars universe.
And that was the voice that she heard when we were on the other planet, which confirmed what you and I thought, which was that's not Thrawn. That is.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way Thrawn is whispering to Morgan.
But technically it was, because it was Thrawn speaking through them to her.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of, it was both right, if you will. And then it explains the Night Sisters' magic. It comes from a completely different galaxy, and we have no idea how the Force works in this galaxy. We know the Force works. We just don't know how it works in this galaxy. So
yeah,
we'll see with that. One interesting thing on Thrawn, like you said, he's twisted. He's a bit darker. It's definitely more Heir to the Empire than it is the Thrawn we came to know in the books, in the Disney canon era. But the one interesting thing, and I want to jump into the Night Troopers. So we have the Night Troopers and we have Enoch. Enoch is the one with the gold face. Looks Greek.
Also, you have to also notice that this material, this gold material that they've used to patch the Stormtroopers' armor with, is also inlaid to the Chimera as well. It's all over the place. When the Chimera comes into focus, when we're with Sabine in the cell and the Chimera comes over the top, Like, it's definitely not the same chimera that we knew in Rebels. It's been reconstructed. Parts of it have been taken apart and used elsewhere, but this gold material seems to be very important. It's everywhere. It's laid into the structure of the chimera. It's in the stormtroopers' armor. It's on the face of Enoch. So I feel like this material, the same, it reminds me of the same material that the Great Mother had, the little balls that they were using that were in that triangle. Mm-hmm. and then it wrapped around Sabine, like that, some type of manipulation there. I feel like that's really important. And in a lot of the coverage that I saw this morning, no one really like touched on this material or like why it looked or like why it was important. But it's the same material that it looked like that the star map was was made from as well. So I think there's something there. There's got to be some type of property with it. I'm just not sure what it is yet.
So much like Skull and Hati, which is Balin and Shin,
right?
Which is one chases the sun, one chases the moon. They're the sons of Fenrir, and that is part of what brings about Ragnarok.
Yep.
They also represent balance, by the way, which I found very
like
interesting.
A yin and yang. Well, if you look at their outfits too, Balin is black and Shin is white.
And for the first time, we see Shin starting to ask very introspective questions, but we'll get into that in a bit as well. But referencing that from Norse mythology, jumping here, Enoch. Enoch is from the Bible. Enoch, this is straight from, and Ben and I had this conversation in chat last night right after the episode, but I'm going to read straight from Eckhart's Ladder's Twitter because he had a really good post on it. He said, Enoch from biblical text. Enoch was taken up by God without experiencing death, suggesting transcendence, divine favor, or a connection between life and the afterlife. So if you look at Enoch from the Bible, they don't name these people without purpose. These characters are named purposefully. Yeah. My guess is that one of these two things is true. Enoch is reanimated by the Night Sisters because Thrawn says at the end of the episode, I need to use your dark magic again. Mm-hmm. Or no one working for Thrawn is alive anymore. And they're all imbued with dark magic.
So I took that as it's the same magic that was in the Inquisitor.
I agree. They're essentially Death Troopers, but they're held together by dark magic instead of science.
Right. I think there's more to Enoch. They were also speaking a different language.
Yes.
I think that is something to also keep in mind. Because they may not be all zombies.
Right. Some combination is what I'm saying.
There's definitely something there for sure. I agree. A part of me was like, oh yeah, these are zombie stormtroopers. Sick. Awesome. It fits right in with Halloween coming up. I love this. But the other part of me was like, these could also be the natives of their planet or elsewhere that were then recruited, and maybe they're being empowered by the Great Mother or with that dark magic. I don't know, but I'm leaning more towards that these are very close to a zombie style character, and it's going to be the same magic that was used for what's the Inquisitor's name? Keep on Marok.
Yep. Marok, I think.
Maraka. Got it.
So you're onto something too when you said like they could be natives as well, because it could be a Savage Opress situation too, where these natives have been imbued with the power of the Night Sisters as well.
Yeah.
Something fishy is there. These are not run-of-the-mill stormtroopers. They don't name stormtroopers with new names unless there's something different from your average stormtrooper. I think the gold, like you said, is some sort of mineral deposit on the planet, and that's what they've been using to repair things and reinforce things. And then I think those red cloths that are tied around all of the Night Troopers have significance to the Night Sisters. Yeah. So they're not normal. There's something there. Yeah. And I want to know more, because Enoch is just like, I couldn't tell if it was like kind of an Oni mask or Greek or some combination, but it was
it's like cool. It just like screams gladiator, like a Praetorian,
And he even says to Sabine, "Die well."
Yeah, die well.
Right when she goes out. Also, her little snarler guy is the cutest little snarler.
Oh my God, it's like a bat dog horse thing. I love it. I don't know what it is, but it's fantastic. I really wanted to pet it.
I enjoyed the little comic break with the two of them when she was like, No, you're a coward.
I was really surprised that we had some comedic relief going into that, but I understand why they needed to lighten the tone because we were going into a kind of a more like fun, like friend, like reuniting kind of thing. But I would like to focus a little bit more on the amount of things that Thrawn has at his disposal right now.
Go for it.
When we see the underbelly of the Chimera, we get a beautiful look into all of the launch pods for the TIE fighters. Mm-hmm. He's got a crap ton of TIE fighters.
Yeah.
He's got the Chimera is, for the most part, still very much so intact. And it seems like a lot of its armaments were kept or were being upkept throughout his entire time of being exiled. And then the amount of stormtroopers that were in the loading bay were ridiculous. I mean, like, he's got an entire battalion at his disposal, and that's gonna be bad. Like, he could most definitely start a war.
Now, keep in mind that the Chimera was taken in battle, so that would explain why the ship is fully loaded too. But at the same time, you know, could they have built more TIE fighters in this time, depending on what scrap and materials they had?
I don't think so. I think that there's a reason why the Chimera, even if you look at it, like the support structures on the balls that sit up top, mm-hmm. like if you look at one of them's like listing off to the side, like the thing's being held together by like bubble gum and paper clips at this point, and the gold. So like for them, and he even says like our numbers have been thinned out since we've arrived here. So that's why he only sent out. He was only going to send out like 2 brigades or whatever he said, like 2 groups, because of how many people they've lost for the 10 years that they've been on or in exile. And I don't even know if they've been at this planet the entire time. They could have gone elsewhere. We don't know what else is out there. I would assume like maybe the Chimera, its hyperdrive doesn't work, or maybe it does work, but they can only do short jumps. They can't do long jumps.
Right.
So that's the other thing too, is like they could have gone off of Perdia, and they could have Perdia. I want to keep on calling it Perdia. They keep on thinking per diem, and I don't know why it comes to my head. But when we don't know enough about this. That was the one thing that I was also really surprised that like they do this long interstellar journey from one galaxy to the next through the void, and they end up perfectly right there at that planet, which I thought was really cool. That like the reason why they ended up right there and not just like in like the outer rim of this and then like made their way to it is because right here and there at the planet was a graveyard. Like the ring around the planet was not rock and dust and ice. It was just whale bones. Which I thought was really cool, and it very much so fit the whole like Dathomiri like setting that we walked into, because it just screams evil the whole way through. Even though it's just like it's supposed to be like a very like peaceful, like this is the final resting place for the space whales. No, but it's still like very much so like had this just like dark, like welcoming. I really liked that. That whole entrance was really, really cool.
And they kept his theme from Rebels, which is that haunting like organ music.
Oh, very much. Yeah, like Davy Jones kind of. Uh-huh.
Yeah, which I really, really, not that I didn't think Dave would pull that out, but still like to do that. Now, one thing about these troopers, whether they're undead or alive, I don't really care, but they're battle hardened as hell right now.
Yeah.
So I want to emphasize these are not your run of the mill stormtroopers. So if they do make it back to the other galaxy, they're going to cause major problems because these are battle hardened badasses. And now, you know, you have Night Sister dark magic on your hands too, on your side. Like this is becoming a very, very big problem for the New Republic very quickly, and they have no idea it's happening.
Yeah, and like I was thinking about it on the drive home from the gym this morning. I was like, how is Ahsoka gonna fight all of this? Like this is like a David versus Goliath kind of thing. Like you'll have Ahsoka. Like Ahsoka wasn't even like it was the other crazy part is Ahsoka wasn't even in this episode except for the beginning, which I thought was really cute. That Hu Yang started off his story with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which now makes me think that Hu Yang is the narrator for Star Wars.
That'd be awesome.
That all of the movies that have been told to us that start off with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and the scroll happens, that in my head, that's Hu Yang reading it to, like, as he has lived on, he has told all of the Star Wars stories.
So the ultimate goal now is to have David Tennant read you a Star Wars novel.
Yes. I want Doctor Who to read me Star Wars bedtime story.
Chat, think about it. A Build Against Cancer GCX incentive where Dave reads an excerpt to Tim live on stream for charity.
Oh, that'd be so nice.
I'm just saying. David, if you ever get wind of this, we love your character. I'm a big Doctor Who fan. Please. Anyway, back to the show. You just never know, Tim, when it gets clipped and then somebody sends it. And Mark has liked our stuff before, so can't really count it out.
Mark likes a lot of things, Kevin.
Hey, let me take my W. Let me take my W that Mark Hamill has clicked like on things that I've been a part of and walk away from it. Yeah. So on the subject of that and Ahsoka, Shin is all of a sudden asking a ton of questions and seems to be second guessing a lot of things that are happening right now.
Yeah, Shin is. I keep on forgetting how young she's supposed to be. She is still very much so a Padawan learner, and she's more so looking at like the superficial things of like of the world. She's not like you can tell Baylan has gone through shit. Come to find out, Baylan was young and Baylan is old, but still he was young enough to go through Order 66, survive. We know that he survived all of that, but I would assume he'd be right around the same age as like Cal Kestis. Like that's kind of like where I'm at. Like he'd probably be like a young teenager, like going through all these traumas. And so like he even mentions like as you get older and you see the history and everything, like you said you have a different perspective. Whereas Shin is just like, I'm ready to gain power. Like she thinks that that they are doing this so that they can rule the galaxy. Like master and apprentice, be the Sith lords that they were destined to be. And then Baylan's like, no, I'm tired of this cycle of death and destruction and vengeance. Like there's more to it than this. And so it's very interesting to see the stark difference between like how a Padawan sees the world and how her master sees the world, and like what those two are like trying to truly achieve.
I had read that there was essentially in the Disney version of canon that the light and the dark have battled for the past 20,000 years. Predating Sith were the Sith cults. They weren't Sith cults, they were dark side cults. And that is the cycle that he is referring to, is the battle between light and dark that has existed, which makes sense if you go back to the Norse mythology that we talked about, is they represent balance. One is light, one is dark, with the two wolves, not necessarily.
But don't the wolves, don't they switch? Don't they flip? Like,
one chases the sun and one chases the moon, yes.
Yeah, so in theory, like Baylan is going to be the one that's kind of like going to go to the good side of it all, and like Shin should be the one that ends up being,
unless Baylan's already been on the good side and
I don't know. Like, I'm very intrigued to see like how this balance shifts. But like 20,000 years would make sense because that would be the dawn of the Jedi,
right?
So
I want to. I said this to Ben last night. I don't know if you saw it in the chat, but I said like whatever they're finding, and I want to read something in a second. Whatever they're finding or looking for that is on Peridea is probably the most important thing that will come out of this show from a lore perspective. I think the rest of it is wonderful. It's things we needed and wanted to see. It's characters that we coming to life for the first time. And I'm not saying smoke and mirrors and like ignore that and look at this. I'm saying it in Dave is like, he's doing a magic trick, Tim. He's like, look at this hand. Yeah, this is where all the action is. While I take this hand and I'm flipping the switch right in front of your eyes, you don't even see it. Yep. So I'm going to read this. This is from Screen Rant, and then it's an excerpt from Aftermath. Baylan tells Shin that he senses something stirring on Peridea, something vast and powerful, which he believes he can use to break the cycle of light and dark. Mm-hmm. His precise words evoke memories of Palpatine himself in Chuck Wendig's Aftermath trilogy. One of the Emperor's confidants remembered something similar. I believe this is Gallius that says this, but don't quote me on that. Gallius Rax. Outside the known galaxy is an unexplored infinity. Palpatine explained one closed off by a labyrinth of solar storms, rogue magnetospheres, black holes, gravity wells, and things far, far stranger. Anyone who tried to conquer that maze did not survive. The ships were obliterated or returned to the galaxy devoid of travelers. Communication. You want to pause?
That's the chaos.
Yes. Communications from these explorers were incomprehensible, either shot through with such static as to make the content useless or filled with enough inane babble to serve as a perfectly clear sign that the explorer had gone utterly mad out there in the isolation. So
I think they're talking about exile. Because the only reason why I'm saying that, the only reason why I say that is because look at the beginning of episode 9 and the way that Kylo had to traverse all of that to get to where he was going.
Yes.
That's the only reason why I would say like that is referring to Exegol in episode 9 and it's not referring to Peridia.
But we also know that Palpatine was collecting Jedi and Sith artifacts.
Yes, I
agree.
agree.
We find that out in Battlefront 2. And we also know that he was interested in things out beyond the red line of our galaxy, and he was searching for ways to get there and find what was out there. It wasn't just Exegol. He was searching for other things.
Oh, most definitely. Yes, I agree.
Now, it's the meme I sent you the other day where it's like, well, that's because I was the character of Balin. Like, well, that's because I wasn't created until, recently. It's that thing. It's like, we could never point to a specific moment where Palpatine would be interested in this. But if I'm not retconning, but going back and filling in more lore, if Peridia was an ancient Jedi fairy tale, he knew about it.
Sure.
And the way Palpatine and even Balin seems to think is that all of these fairy tales and rumors have truth to them in some level.
I wonder, and I've seen a lot of people say this, is that I wonder if this is their way of kind of like, we understand that episodes 7, 8, 9 are there, but like, let's not focus on those and let's focus on this stuff over here. Because the more and more that we go down this rabbit hole of Ahsoka and the things that they're setting up for the Filoni-verse, it really does feel like they just like are like just kind of shoving 7, 8, 9 kind of like under the mattress.
Yeah, and the First Order is out there. We saw the Shadow Council at the end of Mandalorian and whatnot, and we know that they're trying to get Thrawn back. They're the ones that are trying to retrieve him, if you will.
Yes.
My biggest question on that, and I don't think we're going to get closer to this at the end of this show. I think it'll continue to other stuff, but are they going to make Thrawn like part of the beginning of the First Order, or is Thrawn just going to remain Thrawn? Like, that's, again, I go back to what we said originally, which was there's something else here that I don't think we understand, and I think Thrawn knows and understands. And like we're seeing it as like, oh, he's just going to go back and start a war and
back to your whole like cup game analogy. Like Thrawn is always 5 steps ahead.
Yep.
Thrawn plays the long con all the time. Look at his presence in the Imperial Defense Fleet. Like when he became Grand Admiral, if we follow the books and if the books are law because they are canon and that is a part of Thrawn's character development, he was putting on a show the entire time. He was doing his duty that he agreed to, but at the same time, he was still a member of the Ascendancy. He was still a member of the Myth House. He was still doing recon for his house. So I still think there is a part of me that still thinks, and I know I said in the beginning, like we've got a very evil Thrawn. We have more of a heir to the Empire Thrawn. But I think that could potentially be a forward-facing version of Thrawn, while we still have a more reserved part of Thrawn that hasn't been shown yet. I don't think all of the cards are on the table yet. I still think there is a deck that is sitting there, and we still have only seen the first couple of cards.
And I saw someone complaining like, how the hell did Sabine find Ezra like within the day? And Thrawn could. I'm like, Thrawn wasn't looking for Ezra. He didn't give a crap. The only thing he doesn't want.
He
Ezra
even
to
says
do,
that.
Yeah, the only thing he doesn't want Ezra to do is be on his ship when he goes back to the
That's
galaxy.
all that he's trying to do, because he knows that the things that he has to do is not going to align with the ways of the Jedi, because they want to stop the Empire from showing back up and stuff. And so yeah, he doesn't want the what's the line from Scooby-Doo? I don't want you and your
kids. You foiled my plans.
Yeah, he doesn't want the teenagers to mess his shit up.
One of my favorite lines too was the Night Sister looking at Sabine and going, "It reeks of Jedi."
Oh yeah, and Balin looks and he's like, "Fuck, that's me."
And then, well, it had been a while, so then when that topic came up again, the Night Sisters
They all looked. They're like,
glared at him, and I was like, "Oh."
There's a lot of little things that happen in dialogue where like people will do body language, and it's like I really feel like that's all very purposefully done.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Again, I think there's like we keep saying this, but I think there's so many smoke and mirrors that we, the viewer, has no clue of what is about to take place. And I don't think we'll get it till probably the last half an hour of the last episode.
How boring would that be if we already knew like what was going to happen? Like, do you know how boring it was for us when we go through like Mando season 2 and just like we could tell you exactly how it was going to play out?
Look at Disney Plus and look at the movies. The last like lore breaking content we really had was 7, 8, and 9. You know, you had some stuff happen in Clone Wars and Rebels. You had Darth Bane. You had the World Between Worlds. All this stuff. But this, compared to every other show, I don't think anything has pushed the boundaries of Star Wars more than Ahsoka, and has like just dumbfounded all of us, because all of us can always reference back to lore and be like, okay, this is from EU. This is based on this. This is like, what? Just throw the damn book out because we like. Mm-hmm. And that's what's the most exciting part. Like Danielle kept asking me, she's like, "What is happening?" You're like freaking out. I'm like, we're in a place we've never been before, and it's telling a story that none of us thought would be told. And
that's why I thought it was very poetic when Huyang started with "A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away," because we were getting a new Star Wars story being told to us.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you know, everyone always wanted like make the EU live action or make, you know, this, and the High Republic was great because it was like, oh my God, we're starting a new era of Star Wars. Yeah. This is this is like, again, that picture of Dave writing with the fiery pen.
Yeah.
This is on a whole other level of stuff. And this is great because, again, it goes back to what Star Wars is supposed to be. I don't care if you're Hunter's age. I don't care if you're our age. I don't care if you're 70 and saw the trilogies in the movie. This is for everybody, and this is great, and it's wonderful. And I'm really not going to let people who come at me and be like, "Oh, you know, I'm unsure." The one thing I will say is Thrawn doesn't seem like Thrawn, but again, exactly what we said. He's 5 steps ahead of us, and he's probably playing the cup game with. He's probably got one on the Night Sisters right now, even though they can tell the damn future, because that's just who he is. So.
Imagine, so here's one thing that I thought was really, really interesting too, is like, imagine with the rest of Star Wars, like going forward, like we don't go back to that galaxy. Like we stay here for a bit. And like, I would really like that. Like, honestly, for me, like we've got Ahsoka like hurling towards Peridia in the mouth of a whale. She's going to show up, and there's going to be the Chimera with zombies and TIE fighters and Night Sisters, and then you've got Sabine and Ezra and their little soft shell crab people that they're hanging out with. You know, it's just like it doesn't make, like, there's really no way for them to go back, and so everything is forward now from where we are. And so I'm really curious to see, like, what is a Star Wars show look like in a new galaxy altogether? With a clean slate. Like, is this Filoni's way of wiping the slate and starting fresh? Because we already know what happens in that universe or in that galaxy. We know the rest of that story. We know everything about it. You've seen it. You've seen the rise and fall of the Empire. You see the rise and fall of the First Order. We know that Rey starts her own Jedi Order at some point down the road. So, like, there's not much left for us to learn about that galaxy. But in this galaxy, we have a completely fresh, clean slate to work with that no one has seen before. And I think this is where the Mandoverse goes.
Yeah, I don't know,
because I don't think those characters fit in the galaxy. I don't think Thrawn. There's no way that Thrawn's story fits in that galaxy anymore.
I don't like the way it fits if they're going to try and fit it, because
It would feel
set it up in
forced.
Mando, and I don't like the way it fits. So, whether we get Thrawn's death at this point or something
Which
else,
would piss me. I thought about that too. When he walked in, I was like, I would be very upset if he dies at the end of this series. If it's him and Ahsoka fighting at the very end of this, and she kills him, like, I would be so upset, because we've had so much buildup. We've had all of these books. We've had all of this teasing, and he shows up for 3 episodes. I think he would end up being the bad guy in the movie as well. So we've got like these 3 episodes and then the movie, right?
Yeah.
And maybe he shows up again in Mando, but I have no idea what's going on because of everything going on in Hollywood. So I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. But still, I think it would be a very defeating feeling for me if we spent all of this buildup to then just see him die a villain's death.
Yeah, that would kind of like piss in the pond a little bit. It wouldn't be fun. I don't think that's the direction, because if Dave is truly making an Heir to the Empire movie, then it would make sense that Thrawn would continue to live and potentially make his way back to the galaxy. But my point is, perhaps this opens up traverse through the galaxies. Now we've plotted a point, and there could be a reason to come back. Obviously, the Night Sisters also. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do the Night Sisters seem like they're going back with Thrawn, or am I missing?
Yeah. Well, okay. So they're pulling bodies out of the catacombs,
Yes.
and they're stuffing them in the Chimera.
Yes.
That was the agreement. The agreement he made, at least that's how it comes across, is that Thrawn would do this thing for the Dathomiri witches. And so I would assume those are bodies that are going to be reanimated at some point, or like they want to reanimate these bodies. So that's a big thing. That's a big plot point that they kind of just like, they mentioned real quick and then kind of just like glossed over, but there's definitely something there. And so the Great Mother wants to go back to to the original galaxy to repopulate the Night Sisters, potentially, because I would assume Dathomir is very important to them, as important as Peridia is to them.
Probably
There's something there. Yeah, there's a reason why, like, there's Night Sister statues all over this planet, like in random spots. Like, they're really like it kind of like there was the entire episode had a very Dune style vibe to me. Like, for me, like, it felt very Dune-esque the entire time. I don't know if you got that feeling, but like it felt like it just had that kind of setting for me. Like these these ominous statues kind of just like off in like weird places, and it was all very weird. But I definitely would say like they're from here. This is their home base, but Dathomir is very, very important to them. And so whatever is in those sarcophaguses or these I don't even know what you call them, because I don't know if they're dead. They might just be suspended in time. I have no idea.
There's definitely a play here to bring the Night Sisters back into the story, if you will, because with their extinction in Clone Wars and then the reintroduction of Merrin. Merrin's probably one of the most popular characters in Star Wars after the 2 games.
Sure.
So I think that was kind of like, well, apparently they want the Night Sisters back, and Dave was
Yeah.
like, I have an idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like it's so cool because it's not Jedi, it's not Sith, it's not the Force. It's something completely different.
It's just the dark side.
And that's exciting. Like, that's really, really interesting. And I would love to see if that ties in with Acolyte at all.
Yes. Yeah. It's again, like, we can sit here and speculate and mainly discuss, but like, I don't have a prediction for next episode. I really don't.
I have no idea.
I got nothing for you.
The only thing that I can think of is that Ahsoka shows up. Sabine and Ezra have some type of transponder that they've turned on. We know that Ezra has a transponder because Sabine found it with the locator. So I'd assume Ahsoka and Huyang, they show up, they find Ezra and Sabine. Sabine tells them everything that's going on. Ezra kind of gives them like a heads up of like, hey, this is why I've kind of just been like a hermit the entire time. Also, Ezra, the way that he kind of just like shows up and is just like hanging out, like it was very Obi-Wan. Like that entire, like, he definitely has like old Luke Skywalker kind of vibe going on. I love him with the beard. I hope he keeps the beard. I don't want a clean face Ezra anymore. I really like this form of Ezra. It looks really, really good, but he seems so peaceful. He seems so happy,
peaceful and mature.
But he's ready to come home. He definitely
Of course.
made that very clear. He's like, I can't wait to go home. And even Thrawn was like, ready to get the hell out of here. So like people don't want to stay there. I'm very curious to see like what happens with them in their adventure.
It's a barren wasteland with, bandits and
But
little
why
fun crab
is it a
people.
barren wasteland? What happened? And so like did something happen in this galaxy? Like was there some type of massive battle that exterminated did someone go full Thanos in there and just wipe out
Tim. It just
What?
hit me. Tim.
What?
All right. So in EU Legends,
Oh shit, here we go. Let's go.
in the game in SWTOR, you have the Infinite Emperor
Yes.
who I can't believe I'm saying it. So we actually do go to another galaxy in that. I completely forgot. We go to a planet called Zakul, and
Okay.
their force users are based on justice. There's no light and there's no dark. It's justice. It's whether or
Like
not
paladins.
essentially, yeah, they all have yellow and blue lightsabers, and they're like pole arms. Anyway, the guy running it is the Infinite Emperor in disguise. He apparently has a family here. You've probably seen.
Oh, I remember you telling me about this. Yeah.
Valen and the two sons, like
The brother,
you've
yeah,
seen
and they
videos.
end up fighting each other at some point, right?
So after you go through that expansion and you're starting to go into the history of the Emperor, I forget his name at the moment. It escapes me. His name's Valkorion. It's that character, but his real name I can't remember off the top of my head. You start going in the past. You start going to places from when, because his original body is a Sith pureblood, and then he like takes new hosts as he goes along.
Okay.
When you go back, you get a holocron with his father, and his father talks about how he was just a son of a bitch. Like he was one of the worst beings to ever live.
Shit. Okay.
He gains so much power in the dark side that you go to this one planet called Nathema, which I don't know if Nathema is even canon. When you go to Nathema is just destroyed because what the Emperor did to reinforce his life essence was suck all of the force out of this planet, the life force.
Oh,
the
I remember
light
you
side,
telling me about this.
The dark
Yeah.
side, everything. So when you get there, it's just dust, trees, some structures, and it's all gray. It looks a lot like the
Oh,
haze
that's
on that planet.
essentially what we just saw.
Right. Now there's green on this planet, which means that if this happened and it was him, again, I'm in complete full-on speculation mode. It was him. You're talking thousands and thousands a year, so it would give time for life to, restart on a very basic level and get back to a place. But the gray haze reminded me of Nathema. Let me see if I can
Look at everything. I mean, everything is very nomadic. Like all of the living things are all nomadic. They are not like there's no like civilization that has like a base structure or like outpost or city or township or anything. You've got these three Dathomiri witches. You've got the undead. You've got these wolf bat things. You've got the hermit crabs, and then you have these outlanders. You have these bandits that look also the bandit armor. Very Shogun, very samurai, very very like Ronin like style. Like I loved it. I thought that was so cool. I loved aesthetically very pleasing. I loved the red. I loved how like their armor kind of like flared out and very, very cool. Ahsoka the show has definitely landed the whole Star Wars was based off of Japanese samurai movies.
Oh, 100%.
Like just nailed it in this season.
Can you see this?
I can.
All right, so I Googled Nathema, and I'm showing him some pictures of Nathema.
Very desolate, very gray.
But I forgot, too, when you get to certain parts, it is green again because they are rebuilding on it. Like, that's in one of the caves. And they have these crazy, look at this ancient Sith statue.
And now that would make sense. Okay, so let's just kind of expand on that a little bit.
Most of the planet looks like that, by the way.
If Balin is looking for this central point, the epicenter of everything, and he can feel it, and even Ashton, don't you hear it? Don't you feel it? Don't you see it? There is something, and if you're telling me that there is like this dark stuff that's there, that would make a lot of sense as to why that's giving off this, like, one, why the Night Sisters call this place home.
Bingo.
Because they feed off of dark energy. That's not good magic. That's dark magic. And so if they need a well of power to pull from in order to do magic, and at the same time, if that dark thing is also what has been continuing this cycle of life and death, we're gonna like that would make so much sense with what you just said, Kevin.
Yeah,
so much.
And again, we're moving into a different canon, so you can alter the story to fit what you need it to be. But referencing, which Dave loves to do from EU, well,
go back to the interview. Why create new things when we have all of this really cool shit to pull from?
Dave also is the staunch advocate, and the internet loves to ignore that clip of Dave saying, like, George never considered the EU canon, not once. The only thing that was canon was the movies and the animated stuff, which is why when Disney took over, George wrote into the contract that the only thing that was canon was the at the time, movies? It was just Clone Wars and the
shows.
Movies. That was it. So, it never was. And again, I love EU and Legends. There's so much good stuff in there. But just because and again, you don't have to stop enjoying it. Mickey's not coming and burning all your books. But pulling from that to make it officially canon is something Dave loves to do. So what the hell? Let's ride the wave. And Dave seems to like the video games a lot too. Dave and John seem to be very into Knights of the Old Republic and that, and they love to reference that. So again, something in the vein of what we described with the Infinite Emperor, whose name escapes me, and it's really bothering me.
Someone's probably screaming in their car. You idiot.
Kevin, how could you? You're no longer a Star Wars fan. It's going to bother me. Valkorion is his name when he's on that one planet. No. It's not the Infinite Emperor. It's the Eternal Emperor. Infinite Empire is the Ricotta. There's so much. Why is there so much to remember, Tim? How does Alex keep all his stuff straight?
I don't know. He's got a big brain. He has lots of folds.
Anyway, now I'm just going to look up Valkorion because nothing's coming up the way I wanted to. Did you like our little crab friends? I thought they were absolutely adorable.
I thought the hermit crab people were fantastic, and I would have to agree with the.
Sorry,
I thought you already said Vitiate.
No, I said Valkorion.
Oh, I heard V, and I just
Vitiate, Tenebrae, Valkorion. These are all the names he's used over the years. Also, I didn't know there was a canon entry for him in Wikipedia.
Oh, read it.
An individual once served as the Sith Emperor of the Sith Empire during around 4000 BBY. The Great Sith Wars bas relief, later owned by the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, had once adorned the chambers of the Sith Emperor. So Sidious owns something of his. The Sith Emperor was first mentioned in Star Wars canon in Coruscant, an issue of the Star Wars Encyclopedia line of reference magazines published by Diagnosti on February 9th, 2021.
Interesting.
So he is canon. Not that it'll play into this, but that feels good. Man, could you imagine? And that opens the door to Acolyte. I've been thinking that again, you said it before. What if there's a door here that's like, hey, you know that show that we're coming out that's all about a Jedi falling to the dark side?
Mm-hmm.
What if they end up on Peridia too?
And come to find out, this isn't like something that is so unknown to the Jedi Order. Like, this is something that people have known about. Like even Balin says, like, this is like Shin's asks, like, what's wrong? He's like, well, this was supposed to be fake. Like, this was supposed to be like a fairy tale. Like, this is like the bedtime story that you tell to the younglings before they go to bed, and now it's all real. And so like for that to be for the Jedi Order to have already like gone there, or for other people to have gone there already and brought back, like, someone had to have come back and told that story to them to know about what was there, is my point. So like for that to tie in at some during the High Republic, when the Republic was in this phase of exploration and going outwards and seeing what was past the central core of planets, makes so much sense. I could totally see like a group of of explorers from the Republic going out to Peridia or going to that galaxy because they followed the space whales.
Yeah, and the space whales apparently can be ridden.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. They rode them through space before the time of when they kept time or something like that. However she worded that.
Maybe the same way Ahsoka is. I'm not really sure.
Everyone just hops in the mouth. Like when she said they rode them, I was thinking like literally like they have like a saddle. They're like, yeah.
That's what I thought too. And someone was like, how could, scientifically, if you rode them out? I'm like, oh my God, are we really arguing the physics of riding magical space whales through hyperspace?
It makes me think of Lord of the Rings, the Elephantes, where they have like the big like structures that sit on top of them, the Oliphants. So the big like just the structures that sit on their backs. Like they could have just done something like that.
Yeah, the Easterlings rode the tamed and rode the Oliphants. Yeah,
and we all again more Lord of the, like the more I thought about it, like we were so on the mark last week with all of the Lord of the, like I'm glad you dove into Lord of the Rings lore because there is so much of a tie-in with Ahsoka being reborn, like Ahsoka the White, like there is so much like Gandalf in there, and I love that. So thank you, Kevin, for being the Lord of the Rings nerd.
Dave's paying his homage to Tolkien because, I don't think Lucas was a big Tolkien person. Also, Tolkien at the time had only been out for maybe 20 years, I think, or 30 years.
Definitely wasn't as popular during that time, right?
It was popular. I mean, the Beatles tried to make a movie out of it around then and whatnot. So it was
popular. Not like it is now for like our generation.
No, our generation got the movies and it blew up. Mm-hmm. So it was a much different feel then. So Dave, I think Dave's a little bit older than me. So I believe that this is his like kind of love letter to those books.
Oh, for sure. I would agree.
And again, I just love that he teased us 2-3 years ago with that damn image and no one thought anything of it. And here we are. It's like Ahsoka the White. And I think you're going to see a countenance change in her when she arrives on Pretty as well. Because, you see how Gandalf changes, too, in Lord of the Rings. He's not the same Gandalf the Grey when we see him fight the Balrog to when, he rides into Helm's Deep and saves the day at the first coming on the first light on the 5th day. So it'll be interesting to see how Ahsoka interacts when she gets there. Like, does she go straight to Ezra and Sabine? Is she going to run into Thrawn immediately? Like, I don't know how
I'd shit my pants if I'm in that ship and it's just me and I see a freaking Star Destroyer that's chilling there. Like, I wouldn't go after it.
And she's going to know whose Star Destroyer it is immediately.
She saw the Chimera get ripped through space-time. Yeah, I think, she's definitely going to know, like, that's his ship. Like, there's no way denying that that's anything but the Chimera.
Also, Thrawn said to shoot at the Purgle as soon as they arrive in the galaxy.
Hearing his voice was probably like the best part because it was just like it's Thrawn. I mean, it's literally the voice actor for Thrawn. He's got the perfect look. Like they shaped the character after him. Everything was perfect. Like people were like, they were like, "Oh, fat Thrawn." I'm like,
old.
He's old, and it's like, are we really gonna we're gonna look at the midsection? Like that's what we're really gonna focus on because all I thought of was his voice because that was everything. Like, and I've listened to all the books via audiobooks, so I've had Mark in my ears as Thrawn, and he does a great Thrawn, and then actually having Lars as like come on screen as Thrawn was perfect. It was so good.
And the most Thrawn conversation of the entire episode was him talking to Shin when she was like, "Master, we're not going to honor our promise to them." And Thrawn goes, "Oh, but we are." And he's like, "She will be reunited with Ezra." And he's like, "And then we'll kill her." And I was like,
he didn't
Thrawn.
lie. He didn't lie. I mean, he told the truth. He doesn't lie. He never lies.
That was like, that's him. He told the truth. He didn't say what was going to come after the truth.
He just doesn't want to be bothered by those damn kids.
And that's when he said, like, at the worst case scenario, I leave them behind. That's it.
He even said, like, dude, he was like, even your mercenaries, if they get left behind, whatever, because they're insignificant to what Thrawn wants to achieve. What does Thrawn want to achieve? I don't think it's a galactic reign. I think that is so far beyond, I think, Thrawn's wants and needs. But I could be completely wrong. I just don't think him being heir to the Empire, like actually being like the next person who's supposed to be the Emperor, like that does nothing. It's not self-serving at all. So very, very intrigued to see like what, like I hope they start to, like we get into some type of dialogue with him and someone else where he starts to explain what he's doing. Also, no Eli Vanto, which really bugs me. Where is Eli Vanto? We got 2 more episodes. Where the hell is he? Or an Admiral Aralani.
He might be reanimated Enoch for all you know.
I thought about that because who's the actor who plays who's in The Expanse? Everyone thought he was going to be Eli Vanto, but he's in the show.
Yeah.
He's casted, just don't know who he is.
Yeah, that might be our Enoch friend. Enoch, Eli, both biblical names. That would be a very Thrawn move, though, is to take, like, Eli, we're going to make sure you live forever and can serve me in perpetuity. And then Knight said,
Eli's just a redneck. He's just a good old boy from the mid-rim. He's not going to want to become a zombie.
I don't know if it was his choice, Tim.
Oh, God. See, that's so anti-Thrawn, though. I don't think he would do that.
Would he?
I don't know. At this point, I don't know. I don't know that man.
He's been in
I thought I did.
Desperate place for 10 years. I will say that.
And we don't know what I would hope that he hasn't been manipulated by the mother, but who knows?
I think he's using them, but
that's what I think. I think 100% he is using them for his purposes, whatever those may be.
I know we're hitting time now, but I don't have a prediction for next week. I really don't. I have no idea what's going to happen.
I mean, like I had a good feeling that we'd get Thrawn and Ezra this episode, and that's about it.
I think we're going to get more sleight of hand with Ahsoka arriving and all of that. Meanwhile, Baylan and Shin are probably the most important part of the story, and I think it's going to be more of that, like, look over here while this is happening, look over here. And then in episode 7, we'll get our big reveal of whatever the hell he senses.
The one thing that I'm worried about, though, is that because Rey is dead, did they write his death into this?
Yeah, is it
into
death,
Ahsoka,
or is it a recasting?
or is it going to like, or are they going to have to retcon this? Like, I wonder what's going to happen with that.
I would say they would recast before they would, if he's not intended to die, but he may be intended to die, like at the end of this anyway.
Yeah, so I wonder if Shin will be like the vengeful Padawan.
Shin could go either way for me right now. She can become the vengeful Padawan, or maybe she does turn and like work with Ahsoka and Sabine. You know, maybe, I don't know. Maybe she becomes Sabine's master. I don't freaking know. Like, it could be anything at this point. And that's why I don't feel like calling it, because I'm like, I give up. Like, this show is just taking too many twists and turns.
Yeah. I mean, like, they keep on harping on this idea that Sabine could be force sensitive. Like, again, like her, like, putting the hand up against the wall and, like, it starts to, like, move, but it's actually the Chimera coming in. So it's like, it makes you think for a second. You're like, is she? And then it's like, nah. So
I really hope she's not. I'm not going to
I don't think so either, but I wonder why they keep hitting on that so hard. There's got to be a reason.
I think it has to do with her self-worth and self-doubt. You know, she doesn't want to be your traditional run-of-the-mill Mandalorian. She's probably not even aware that it may be on news feeds and stuff, depending on how the word has gotten out, that Mandalore's been retaken. You know, because at this point in the story, we're a few years, I think we're around the same time as season 3 of Mandalorian. So I don't know if she knows that Mandalore's been taken back, but we do know that her entire family's dead. So, kind of like, I think it has to do with her doubt and worth, and I think having a resolution to that doesn't involve her being force sensitive would be more impactful than having her suddenly be like, in a time of stress, which we've seen 100 times, be able to connect with the force and use it. Now, if it's a one-time thing and she can't do it again to save someone, I'd be okay with that, because the force does move through all living things. So
yeah, I'm
okay with that, but I don't want her to become a force user. That would kind of ruin her character. It would also kind of dilute Grogu a little bit, because Grogu's very special right now for being both. So
yeah, I agree.
Again, a moment of desperation, sure, but at the end of the day, I think her value and her self-worth will be, if she can come to some sort of realization, will be more impactful than the alternative.
And she's always been, and she's always been one to push away who she really is. She did that through Rebels. She never really wanted to be a Mandalorian. She always was, like you said, she was resentful for her upbringing.
Yeah,
and so
she didn't want to be an Imperial pilot.
She didn't want to do any of that stuff. So it's very, very interesting to see her. Like, I think to your point, it would be interesting to see her come full circle and accept who she is and become the Sabine Wren that we all know that she could be, and be like she could be a part of the new Mandalorian people that bring Mandalorian to Mandalore to it back to its greatness.
If Mandalore is keeping the lineage of the houses, she is the leader of her house.
Yes.
She's the last
because her parents are
heir
dead.
of House
Yeah.
Wren.
Yep.
You know, so it would make sense that to rebuild a civilization the way
I
they
agree.
want to, that taking her place in House Wren. I don't think we're getting that in this show. But
No, I could see that being something with Mandalore or an offshoot. I mean, like, everyone loves Bo. Like,
well, the idea seems to be that, you know, obviously they're going to make a season 4 after writer's strike, or this is all culminating in a movie or movies from Dave. So the characters are going to start to intermingle a bit more. Now that we met the full Rebels cast,
yeah,
it's not going to shock you if Ezra shows up in Mandalorian, or if Zeb plays a bigger role in future content and things like that. So I think now that we met the whole gang, if you will, we're kind of off to the races. It's another reason why I don't think they'd kill Thrawn, because I think Thrawn is important to the story. But the question then will remain, and this is where we'll kind of leave it, is Thrawn playing 4D chess with everyone?
Yes.
Or are they really just making him heir to the Empire Thrawn, which would be kind of a letdown?
I think that would dilute his character as a whole, and it would be, I think it would do him disservice based off of everything else that we've come to know about Thrawn and all of the other things about the Chiss and all of that. Like, I feel like Thrawn is the connecting piece.
Yeah.
Like, we like, without Thrawn, I don't think anyone would give a rat's ass about the Ascendancy.
Chiss are force sensitive, right? Because that's how the pilots can navigate through the chaos.
Yeah, so there's different levels of sight. You have like first sight, second sight, and third sight, and they end up losing their connection. It's for how it's been explained. The Chiss use these navigators. They are young girls. They are all force sensitive, but they don't refer to it as the Force until Thrawn meets with Anakin.
Right.
Then he has his understanding of the Force. But for the Chiss, they use their connection with the Force as being able to navigate through the chaos.
Right.
But so most of the navigators have second sight, but there is a third sight, and it's very, very rare. And most of the girls lose their ability to use second sight as they go into puberty. So as they become women, they lose that connection with the Force.
So, okay.
And what's really sad is that they kind of like just get tossed to the side after that. Like, they're used by the Ascendancy and then they're thrown out. But they're also kept a secret. They're also very secretive. Like, no one knows about the Navigator program.
Would that... So here's my question, and we'll drop it after this and prepare for the next episode. Would that lead to Thrawn knowing about what Baylan is sensing?
Oh, man. I don't know.
Is there a connection there? That's my...
I don't...
one way or
Okay, so
another.
that's always been my question. I feel like you and I have talked about this in the past. Okay, so we know that Thrawn's sister is the leader, or she is the director of the Navigator program. She was a navigator.
Right.
So we know that his family is force sensitive. Right. I've always wondered if Thrawn himself was force sensitive because of his innate ability to see into the future by by learning about people through artwork and things like that. Like, so does he have that force ability that Ahsoka uses when she touches, what did you call that? Psychometry?
Psychometry, yeah.
So when she touched something, she could see into the past and learn about things that had happened, right? Thrawn has always been able to learn about his enemies by looking at their artwork, things that they've done, behavioral patterns, things like that. So does he have the ability to tap into the Force? Like, is he Force sensitive? That's always been a question that I've had, and I've wondered that more and more as we've gone through the Ascendancy books, because there are things that just happen. You're like, that if other Chiss can do that, what stops him from doing that?
Didn't he sense the same life force in Anakin and Darth Vader, which is how he was able to put 2 and 2 together?
Yes, but I always took that as he noticed behavioral, like he noticed the same behaviors of Darth Vader that Anakin portrayed. And so I always took that as just superficial, like he's super smart and he can tell just by the way people breathe if they're like who they are.
Yeah.
But is it deeper than that? It could most definitely be, but they haven't actually come out and said it. But in the last Ascendancy book, you learn about his sister. So there's gotta be something there. It would not surprise me if Thrawn, if something came out, if Thrawn said it, or there was literature or something where it talks about him being Force sensitive. Because that would explain. I mean, yeah, he's big brain, but there's something else that's there. And then it goes back to the whole, like, give me everything about going into the next episode. He wants all the information on Ahsoka. He knows Anakin. They've met. They've gone on missions together. He worked with Darth Vader to defeat the Grisk. So as soon as he finds out that Anakin Skywalker was her Padawan, that's game over, dude. That's some psycho warfare that she's not ready for.
Or maybe her little trip into Dream World prepared her for it.
I don't know.
We'll find out next week on episode 7 of Ahsoka. We got 2 episodes left, so we're hitting the nitty gritty. And thankfully, the one thing we didn't want to happen was like arrive at Peridia in episode 8, and we got our wish.
I was going to flip a table if they were going to hold on to him to like the last episode.
Yeah, and the opening of this episode, I was like, please just be like, we're still in hyperspace and not go back to them for the rest of the episode. And I was, yes, thank you. Okay, you did it right.
I mean, like, and they didn't even hold off until the end. I mean, like, they threw him in the very beginning. Like, I'm still surprised that this episode of Ahsoka had nothing to do with Ahsoka.
It's why his entrance was so grand on the Chimera, because
oh my god, all that was awesome
so early, as opposed to Ezra, who was like, hey, took you long enough.
just chilling, like, hey, bud.
It took a lot. By the way, before we get out, Ezra's casting was perfect. He talks like him. He looks like him. The blue eyes.
Those are contact lenses.
Oh, you can tell, but still, that's the same color. I did a side by side.
Oh, he has beautiful blue eyes. Yeah,
same nose, like everything is Ezra. So phenomenal job casting. Like Mina Musad did a great job. Who's this playing Ezra? I forget his name.
I don't remember.
Ezra,
but I think I like him more than Mina would have been.
Emanis Fondi.
Because I would have just seen Aladdin I would have been Aladdin with a beard the whole time. I'm glad they didn't do that.
You know what it was that threw us off? It was the pictures of Emanis Fondi next to young Ezra don't look good, but with his makeup, contacts, and everything in, it's like boom. So
it's 10 years older. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And it'll be interesting to have Sabine explain to Ezra how she got there. So that'll be a fun conversation we get to have next week. But thank you for tuning in to Star Wars and Scotch. We appreciate you. Make sure you go over to Tim's channel, youtube.com/darkness429. You can find me and many, many other people hanging out there. He was playing Magic the Gathering yesterday. He's playing Party Animals. What do we got on the docket for the rest of the week?
I think we're going to do more Magic this afternoon. I'm trying to, instead of doing Warhammer for today, I was trying to see if we could do some more Magic the Gathering. We're in this weird phase right now where it's like starting to get into tabletop stuff and people like it. So we found a really cool way to stream Magic the Gathering and people really liked it. So we're doing that. We got Payday 3 going on right now. I don't know if I'm going to do Lies of P. I was watching some people stream it, and Elden Ring gave me some problems, and I've watched people cry with Lies of P. So I'm just like, I might just hold off on that one for a little bit. But Payday's been a ton of fun.
Spider-Man next week.
Spider-Man's next week. We've got man, what else is coming out? There's a lot. It's actually October feels pretty full.
I saw a TikTok video of a guy who was like, he's like, all right, that was a long Starfield game. 30 hours. I need to go outside and touch grass. And he got up and walked, and then he got an alert on his phone. He's like, oh no, Spider-Man came out. Oh no. And he turns around and goes back to the PlayStation. It was very funny.
I spent 80 hours in Starfield just to get through and I haven't even done New Game Plus yet.
Yeah, and you did the story and then the 4 side story.
No,
chains?
I did the side story chains first, and then I went and did the story. And I'm glad I did it that way, because there was a lot of things that happened very, very quickly that I think would have ruined the side quests. And so I'm really happy that I did it the way that I did, because everything kind of played out beautifully for me.
So when I start, which I'm planning on starting this weekend, I should do the side missions and then the main story.
So real quick before we get out of here, the way that I would suggest you doing things is if I could do it all over again, and not talking about New Game Plus, but if it was me, Tim, first time booting up Starfield, I would have gone and done the first 2 story missions the way that I did it. And then instead of going into the Crimson Fleet storyline, which I kind of got forced into, I would have just gone, once I got to Atlantis, I would have gone and done the Vanguard, the UC storyline, because that's really, really fun. It's really cool, and it's a great introduction to all of the lore of Starfield. So you go and you do the UC Vanguard stuff, and then I would go do either the Crimson Fleet or the Freestar Collective, and then after that, after all that's done, then go and finish up the main storyline, because then you get into being Starborn and all of that stuff. So it's really, really cool.
So 2 story missions: Vanguard UC storyline, Crimson Fleet storyline, Freestar Collective storyline, back to main story.
Yeah, I mean, you can go and do the Ryujin stuff that's on Neon. Ryujin is probably my least favorite out of all of the factions. It wasn't all that great. If you're into corporate espionage, then it'd be really fun. But as far as a really grandiose adventure with fun dialogue and things that are happening, is probably my least favorite. But Neon's a really cool planet. It's a really cool city on a very interesting planet. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh, and we got freaking Cyberpunk.
Yep.
Oh, Cyberpunk 2.0 drops tomorrow, and then Liberty City drops on Monday.
Yeah, I'm gonna restart. I only had 15 hours in Cyberpunk, so I'm just gonna move on to a new save and make a new character and start over with 2.0. So I'll be jumping into that too. Man, I got a list. My list of games to play it's
getting long, dude.
We're up to 19. So yeah, and that is not live service. That is just stories.
Someone said that 2023 is to video games to what 1981 was for movies, or 1982 was for movies, because there's so many movies that came out in the early to mid 80s, stuff that I still haven't even caught up on yet. And I love the 80s. I think the movies that came out in the 80s was phenomenal, and they're still and I think it was a great analogy, because there's just so many video games that were held off during COVID and the pandemic and whatnot that have now started to come out.
You know what you missed and would be a great rainy day, end of the year as things are winding down? The Expanse Telltale game.
Oh shit, you're right. I keep on thinking about that and I don't boot it up.
There's a Star Trek
I love
one
the Expanse.
Too.
Yeah,
that came out this year. It's a Star Trek. I don't think Telltale made it, but it's Telltale-esque.
Yeah.
But yeah, Expanse. That's on my list. It's so fucking long. Anyway, so we're gonna get out of here. Yeah, make sure you head over to Tim on YouTube, Darkness429. He's Darkness429 everywhere else on the internet. And I'm Kevin. Everything I do is at raredrop.co. If you want to say hello, it's Kevin Xvision on Twitter, KMagic101 everywhere else. We are Star Wars and Scotch, so make sure you rate, review, subscribe. It helps immensely. We have just been getting massive numbers as Ahsoka's been released, so we want to thank you for that and continue the wonderful discussions taking place on social media with all the nice people. I'm going to emphasize nice people. But you have a great week. We'll see you next Wednesday for episode 7 of Ahsoka. And we'll be responding to tweets and messages and Discord. Tim has Star Wars chat in his Discord. My old Discord has a spoiler chat. So if you want to talk things. It's protected and people can have conversations after they watch the show. So feel free to hop into the Discords and have the conversations as well. But until next week,
may the force be with you.
Always.